Let's start with the Guiding Coalition. There are 3 relatively simple steps. First, identify the relevant people. And you want to think about people with different types of sources of power. So there's formal power. You might think about someone who has a position of authority. They're a minister or a prime minister or a chief of staff or a very, very important sort of political aide. Who are those people? But you also want to think about informal power. Is there, for example, a prominent doctor who's well known around the country who, if they signed up for this goal, would help you with your health priorities? Is there, for example, a leader of your teachers' union who will be important to endorse any education reform effort that you're undertaking? Is there a person whose power comes from just the sort of things they know? Maybe a permanent secretary, a person who's been around for a long time and who really understands how to get things done in government. You want a mix of those kinds of people, formal power and informal power. Once you've done that, start influencing relevant appointments where you can. So in some cases, the people you want are already going to be in the positions that you want them to be in. In some cases, you might find a role comes open, permanent secretary, a certain type of civil servant, a person leading a certain school or clinic or school district, and you might say, well, we want the right people, allies of this effort in those positions, and you use your influence to try to get the right people into those positions. And finally, you want to invest time up front. Whoever the group is that you've identified, you want to invest in relationships with them before you need those relationships. We've all been in that situation where we needed something from somebody and our very first interaction with them was to ask them for that something. And the natural response is, well, now you want to talk to me because I have something that you want. You need to avoid that, especially in the middle of a government in which politics are everywhere. So the question is, what will it look like for you to start investing in relationships without agenda, to start trying to build relationships with people before you need them? And you will differentiate yourself from a lot of your peers when you do this. You'll be the one person walking into the minister's office or the permanent secretary's office or the teachers union leader's office who said, I'm just here to get to know you or to ask you what you want. I actually don't want anything from you right now. I might want something later, but let's not worry about that for now. That's the whole point of investing in a guiding coalition. You do that, you spend time with these people, you cultivate those relationships, and you'll have a group of people who will back you up in this effort when the chips are down and when you really need the help. Once you've done that, it's important to select single leaders for each strategy. Emphasis there on the word single. The whole point here is not to have each strategy or each goal delegated to a committee of people. As the old saying goes, when everyone is in charge of something, nobody's in charge of it. So you want each strategy to have a single accountable owner. Now, I know what the protest will be to this. They'll say, well, it's a complicated cross-sectoral thing or cross-divisional thing. We really need the leaders from the 2 relevant sectors. And our answer to that is, well, no. Well, you do need them in implementation, but one of them has to be the leader. And, they can draw straws for it. They can cast lots. The point is that someone needs to have the ultimate accountability for this. They might have to coordinate with the other person, but you need to know when your minister wants an update on how is this going. Who do they call? Who do they get in touch with? It's very, very important to have complete clarity about that. So what kinds of qualities should these single leaders have? Well, for starters, think about this quote that you see on the slide. From Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a genuine leader is not a searcher for consensus, but a molder of consensus. What you want is people who are comfortable influencing other people, not people who are simply trying to take orders from others or figure out what other people want, but someone who's going to be an effective agent on behalf of your minister and your ministry to get things done and to work across barriers to get things to happen. To be a bit more specific, an accountable leader should really have a number of different traits here. So they need to have a visible commitment from the top. So whoever this is needs to have the backing of the people at the top who are in the guiding coalitions. They think this person we trust in order to get it done. You want them to have a tight focus on one, or if necessary, just a few top priorities. You don't want to assign one person everything. You want to really give them a narrow focus and spread out the accountability across the different priorities. You want to empower them to coordinate across departments and drive top priorities. Again, this goes back to visible commitment. They need to feel like they have the backing of all the relevant people to do what needs to be done to get the work done. You need this person to be somebody who does things differently, who is willing to question the way the bureaucracy works and be a change agent within it. You want them to be someone who's not afraid to go out and see for themselves what's happening on the front line, in schools, in clinics, in regional offices, in districts. A person who's going to sit in their office all day is not the kind of leader that you want. You want someone who's going to be data-driven and objective, someone who's willing to go wherever the facts and the evidence lead them, and who is always trying to find more data and to unflinchingly look at it and decide what it means and to derive those implications and translate them into action. Finally, you want this person to have a mix of skill and knowledge, preferably somebody who knows the system but also knows what outside the system is like, who knows the sector but also isn't bound by the conventions of what everybody says in the education sector or the health sector. The key, though, as we said, is that it's a single accountable leader, a person who feels responsible in a unique way for getting it done. Otherwise, it won't get done. So that's what we're going to focus on in the exercises here. Figuring out, number one, who your guiding coalition is for the overall effort, who's going to back your success indicators and your goals. And secondly, figuring out who the accountable leaders will be for each piece of the architecture you've come up with. Who will be accountable for each indicator, and who will be accountable for each strategy that you've selected. Once you've got that figured out, you've made an important step toward really operationalizing your minister's vision because you've actually assigned responsibility and accountability for the work.